Welcome to Murder with the Missus. I'm Darren.
And I'm Amy, and today we're going to tell you about Jennifer Kairis.
Don't forget to smash that like button and go and check us out on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Podbean, and Facebook. Like, share, subscribe, and don't forget to tell your friends.
We cover cases all the time where reports are amended. And a second opinion is not necessarily a bad thing. But this one got a little wild for me, and I wanted to share it. This may be a little shorter episode because there's only so much information on it, but it's going to give you whiplash. So here we go. It's in Winter Park, Florida, and I feel like we've been there a lot through the podcast recently. Jennifer was born in 1978. She loved everybody and trusted everyone. She wore her heart on her sleeve. And she was also born with the acting bug. She was happy and goofy, so it came naturally that she would want to entertain. She loved to perform, dance, and sing. So by the time she was in high school, she joined the drama department. She graduated from high school in 1996 and went to Rollins College as a theater major. Her parents, Barbara and John, only lived about 20 to 30 minutes away, so they were able to see each other all the time. And that's always good.
It's close enough if you need them, but, far enough away if you don't.
Right. It's a perfect little setup.
Yeah.
Now, it was the end of 97, beginning of 98 that she started dating Paul. Paul was a member of the, let me butcher this, Tau Kappa Epsilon fraternity. There we go. Barbara says she only met him one time, and he was standoffish. He barely said 2 words to them. But since Jennifer had started dating Paul, she has spent less time in the theater and more time partying. Her friend Shannon, who was in the theater program with her, says that she wasn't like out of control or anything. She was just spending more time having a good time than she used to. And those were my words, not hers. On Monday, March 30th of 1998, Jennifer went out drinking with friends from about 8:30 to 10:30, but left the group to go to see Paul. His frat was having a party that night, and she had already had several drinks before she got there, and she kept drinking once she did. She got very drunk, and that pissed Paul off. So they got into an argument, and he had one of the junior pledges, Tim, walk her back to her dorm at around 3 a.m. to put her to bed.
He had some other guy walk his drunk girlfriend home and put her to bed.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
What could go wrong?
All kinds of things.
Her parents also felt some type of way about it when they found out too. Now the next morning, so Tuesday morning, Jennifer doesn't come to theater class. Shannon finds out that Jennifer didn't go to any of her classes that day. So she calls Barbara and asks if Jennifer is there with them. She is not. So Shannon goes over to Jennifer's dorm. This is pre-cell phone in everybody's pocket days. So Barbara's calling Jennifer's landline. That is a phone that stays in your house and is connected to the wall with a cord for you youngsters.
And this is before the rotary phone. This is after the rotary phone. So this is a little bit more advanced where you just push the buttons.
Yeah, you push them.
Yeah.
There's actual buttons.
Yeah, the rotary is the
Yeah. Oh, we said that at the same time. Wow. So Barbara's calling Jennifer every 10 minutes or so, which I really think it was a lot shorter than 10 minutes. And Shannon made it to the dorm. She was knocking on the door, but wasn't getting an answer. So she went and got the RA, Carlos. Carlos came back with her, and he knocks on the door too. Now, he has keys to all the dorm rooms for emergencies, but he doesn't just want to let himself in. Jennifer, however, is not coming to the door, and that phone is inside ringing off the hook. He knows that if someone is in there and can get to that phone, that they're going to answer it, if not only to just stop that damn noise. So he feels like he is justified to open the door. This is about 9:30 p.m. Jennifer's body is laying on the floor, face down, but her right leg is still on the bed. Her underwear is visible and bunched up, so he immediately thought that there was a struggle. This is not a natural position. He touches her neck to check for a pulse, and he realizes that her body is stiff. He made Shannon get out of the room and go next door to call campus safety.
Did he answer her phone? I bet his mom's still calling.
Barbara is still calling, yes, and Carlos does answer the phone. He tells her that Jennifer has passed away and she needs to get to the campus. Poor Barbara couldn't make sense of it. It was a shock. One of those times that you can hear the words, but your brain can't make them make sense. Police and paramedics arrive and Jennifer is declared deceased at 9:37 p.m. They covered her body with a comforter from the bed. Police said the position of her body and the scene itself was suspicious, like there had been a struggle. There appeared to be fluid, possibly blood, coming from her mouth. There was bruising on her legs. Her skirt was hiked up from the front and her underwear had been pushed to the side, indicating possible sexual assault or attempted sexual assault. The room was in disarray, but it is a college dorm and not expected to be perfect. But the family and friends say that she is a very tidy person, so this was not like her. There were pill bottles on the dresser, which was Wellbutrin. That's an antidepressant, and the bottle was open. They decided they needed to treat this like a homicide.
Oh, you're kidding me.
Right off the bat. Usually they're like, oh, that pill bottle's open. Suicide. Done. Wrap it up. But not this cop. This is what we're talking about.
Yeah. We talked about this in the last one.
Like the last couple of episodes, I think.
I mean, they came in, they seen it. I mean, the way we describe it, it's like, hey, this was...
Red flag.
This was a homicide. You know, something's going on. Something's not right. It's hinky. And, and they're automatically like suicide.
Mm-hmm.
And it's more of they don't want to investigate. They don't want to do their job. They don't want to do the paperwork.
Right.
And then, you get this one and everything. They come in, they're like, oh, something's not right.
This doesn't feel right.
So they're going to treat it as a homicide. So that's why I'm like, oh, really? Finally.
Yes.
We get those cops that want to do their job.
Yes. And plus, if anything looks weird, strange, suspicious, even if it doesn't, I think that they need to treat every crime scene they're called to as suspicious until you can prove otherwise.
And, and I'm pretty sure, that's how they're all supposed to go.
That's what I think.
I mean,
but
it's good for them. I mean, at least they're investigating it. I'm happy to hear that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, right off the bat, they were like, let's just actually investigate and see what happens. Let's see where that takes us. Sadly, by the time Barbara and John get there, she is already in a body bag. So that is how they see her. Detectives say that there is no obvious cause of death. So like there's no gunshot wounds, stab wounds, things like that. There's no obvious murder weapon in the room. So all they can do is talk to people, try to piece together her last activities, and wait for the medical examiner. They talk to Paul, of course. He tells them about having Tim walk her home. And Paul had all of his fat
brothers. Whatever.
All of his frat brothers to say that
I
he
like
stayed.
Fat brothers. That's better.
Words are cool.
Yeah.
But he had all them to say that he was there all night. So he's cleared off the list of suspects. They talked to Tim, who says that she was stumbling so much that he basically had to carry her back to her dorm. And he laid her on her bed, on her back. She was barely conscious, and he left the room to use the restroom. When he came back, Jennifer asked him not to leave. So he stayed there with her for 10 to 15 more minutes until she was fully asleep. And then he left, leaving the door unlocked. He also mentioned that she had foam or bubbles coming out of her mouth.
Well, damn, Tim. You didn't even the recovery position, like lay her on her side?
Nope. Good. And I mean, why that didn't strike him as weird.
Yeah.
That she had bubbles or something coming out of her mouth. Maybe call somebody and be like,
call somebody.
Hey, could you come look at her? She don't look right. He didn't even do that. So R.A. Carlos said that the door was definitely locked when he got there. So now cops have to wonder if someone came in after Tim left, assaulted her or attempted to, and then locked the door on the way out. Now the autopsy was done the next day, April 1st of 1998, showing a lot of injury to her face. Contusions of the right, left, and mid-forehead, left upper eyelid. There were 3 on her cheek, parallel, going all the way up to her eye. A bruise on her nose from mid-nose to the tip. She bit her upper and lower lips. There's lots of things. She also had bruising on her knees and thighs, torn toenails, and damage to her neck. Now, Dr. Reyes did the original autopsy, and then he called in medical examiner Dr. William Anderson because of the concerns about the neck injury. So they did a layered dissection and saw significant hemorrhage deeper into the right side of her neck, indicating pressure was applied there. They took pictures, and while waiting for toxicology, they reported to the police that this was a possible homicide. Listen, these people are banging it out of the park.
Yeah.
Dr. Anderson said, putting 2 and 2 together, it looks like her heart was sensitized by the drugs, and she had a neck compression, which led to the lack of oxygen for a period of time, which caused a fatal cardiac arrhythmia. So they head back over to talk to Paul and Tim. Tim says that she did hit her head a couple of times when she was bumbling around, but he didn't change his story. And Paul already had his alibi, so he had nothing new to offer as to why she was so bruised up. You couldn't miss all that bruising on her face.
Well, it sounds like she got beat up at some point.
That's what it sounds like, because there's a lot of damage, and people would definitely notice if she was walking around with bruises all over her face. So that means it had to happen after she got back to her apartment or dorm. On her nightstand that night was a piece of paper that had the name Skylar with a phone number. It seems Jennifer had called Skylar 3 times the night that she died. Skylar was an old high school boyfriend that she kept in touch with. He did live several hours away, so he wasn't a suspect. But he said that each time he talked to her that night, she was in a different state of mind, always saying that she missed him, but sometimes she'd say it sadly. The next call, she would be upbeat. So she was definitely going through some emotions. The toxicology report came in showing a low amount of alcohol in her system, but that she had a bunch of different pills in her system, drugs for migraines, 2 antidepressants, and some over-the-counter cold medicines. Of course, on the report, they list these long-ass names that nobody could pronounce, but it was like Tylenol, Sudafed, Mucinex, an anti-inflammatory, Zoloft, the Wellbutrin, and the most interesting to them, propranolol, hope I said that right, which is a heart medication that was not prescribed to her, and it can suppress your respiration. I'm not going to lie, I don't know how to break down all these medications, but I've seen it reported she had twice the toxic amount of this in her system. Now this goes by the name of Inderol. Her tox report says she had 4.5 milligrams per liter. But the docs that did the original one, the 2 guys, said that none of these were in a lethal range individually, but together could cause a cardiac episode.
So who do we believe?
And that would have been a good title for this episode.
Was there any of the people that she knew that took this type of medicine?
They did not specify if they actually even looked into people who took this medicine.
Because that would have been like a
good thing to ask.
Well, I mean, during an investigation and everything else, you know, if that person's a suspect, because you don't release that information during an investigation.
Right.
So you can be like, well, what type of meds do you take? Can I see them?
Yeah. I mean, if you see a strange drug in somebody's system that they do not have a prescription for, you should be like, where did it come from? Let's start here.
Because you're not asking about that person's condition
True.
or anything like that. You're just asking, well, what type of meds do you take?
Do you have a heart problem?
Yeah.
Do you need this heart medication?
You know.
Yeah.
And they could actually even get a warrant for that. They should be able to, I think.
Well, I don't know. We need a cop.
Because there's like a deal where it's like privacy.
HIPAA.
Yeah, HIPAA.
Yeah, you have privacy.
That's what I'm saying. You can't ask like what their
condition
is, but I think you can ask like meds.
Well, I think they would have had to name him as a suspect to have a little more leeway to get information like that. Yeah. But I don't think they ever listed anybody as an actual suspect.
But anyway, that's what I would try to figure out. I was like,
yeah, it's a good point.
Where did these meds come from?
That's a good point. Yeah.
You know,
I would too. The rape kit was negative for fluid, and the cause of death was listed as blunt force trauma of the head and compressive asphyxia. The working theory was that she may have been drugged, maybe at that party, and someone attempted to assault her, choking her when she fought back. And since she already would have had respiratory issues from the meds, it was easier for them to cause her death. Since there were high levels of heart medication in her system, police ordered an autopsy review. So that's where they take the reports, samples, pictures, all the things except the actual body, and have another doctor review it and provide their own opinion. The review was done by the district chief medical examiner, Dr. Gore. The original report was amended to show that the damage to the neck was minimal, not substantial, like originally said. On October 20th of 1998, Dr. Gore changed the death to show that it was accidental and not a homicide, that she actually overdosed.
Oh, a doctor fight.
Yeah, this is a doctor fight. Pretty much, because Dr. Gore literally drew lines through some of the injuries listed. Like her toenail wasn't broken, cross that off the list. There were no abrasions on the knee, cross that off the list. No contusion on the right thigh. You see where I'm going with this?
Yeah, but I mean, he's going off paperwork. He's not going off the body.
How the hell is he supposed to know that?
Exactly. He has to trust in the other doctors as to what they found. So
plus, we've seen several autopsy reports They've got the front view of a body figure and the back view of a body figure, and they mark on the body where these marks are, where these bruises are, where these cuts are. He's looking at this, and seeing bruises all over this girl's knees, all over her thighs, and he's like,
and in some cases, they actually take pictures.
There was lots of pictures taken
to prove what they found.
Exactly.
Cover your ass.
Exactly.
You know?
So Dr. Reyes and Emmy Anderson weren't asked any questions about the autopsy that they did by Dr. Gore. So they went to him, questioning the trauma of the neck and saying the pictures alone would show him how extensive it was. What pictures?
Really?
Really. There was one picture of the neck in the file, but the two original doctors said that they took a lot of pictures. Remember, they did a dissection of this area. Mm-hmm. They took pictures as they went. So where did they go? Having that review really damaged the case because now, since it's ruled as an overdose, the case was closed in 1999. This was unacceptable to her friends and family. Well, lots of people, really. The Orlando Sentinel had a reporter who was very interested in this case. So in January of 2004, they did an article because they saw some issues with the investigation, like that a detective left the rape kit in the morgue for 10 weeks before he finally picked it up and took it to the state crime lab.
Well, and that's contaminated.
There are things in these kits that have a clock on them. Like, you have to get these things taken care of. Sadly, it's not uncommon for these to not be processed properly, but that is for another day. The article also showed that there were hairs, one found in her mouth and some on her body, that police never tested. And on April 2nd of 2002, all the evidence was destroyed because the case was listed as an accident. Also in 2004, Dr. Gore got investigated for other autopsies that he messed up on. Not related to this case, but he was removed as being able to do autopsies, and then he retired within a couple of months. But petitions went around, and everyone was pushing for Jennifer's case to be reopened. And the state attorney agreed. They reopened the case, and Dr. Bruce Goldberger, a toxicologist, reviewed the autopsy again.
And then there were three?
And then there were three. 3 reports by 4 different doctors now. Dr. Goldberger decided that this was a suicide.
Oh my God. What the fuck?
He says that she woke up, took a bunch of pills, locked the door, and went out her own way. But there were no signs of her being suicidal, according to friends and family. Sometimes she got sad. Sometimes she let it get to her if people were hypercritical about the theater
They
stuff.
just traded one jackass for another.
Yes. And we know she suffered from depression because she had antidepressants in her system, but not to the extent to hurt herself.
But I mean, okay, so they use antidepressants for many things.
Many things.
All right. Mm-hmm. So like I take antidepressants, but it's not for depression. Mm-hmm. It's to help me sleep. It's
right.
To
it
help,
slows your brain down.
It's to help my migraines.
Yes.
And everything. It's not because I'm depressed.
Yes. Now, they do believe that she did have some depression, yes.
But that's what I'm saying, though. But
they can't just go straight to that.
They can't go straight to that and be like, oh, he's taking this, so obviously he's depressed.
You also take an anti-seizure medication for the same thing to help with migraines,
and I don't.
But you don't have seizures.
I don't have seizures. It's one's to help me sleep, one's to slow my brain down. It helps me. I've had migraines my whole life. And I found a doctor. He made the little concoction of pills, if you want to call it, and it's not even that much. But he came up with the ingredient that
formula
that actually knocked my migraines from every day to a couple of months. And I've been on these pills for 25 years now, and I'll have maybe 2 a month now. There'll be the small occasion where I'll have
small. There's a lot of times where you have pain from other places that will cause migraines.
Yeah.
With triggers. He has triggers.
I have triggers, but they're not as frequent as they used to be.
And they're not as bad as they used to be.
Yeah. So now when I do have them, if they are bad enough, I'm down for the day. But that's what I'm saying, though.
Sometimes a couple of days.
Yeah. Like it used to be, it was every day.
Yeah.
I had to go to work with it every day. And
so they'll give you medications that aren't for the reason they're intended to be for, because they help with something that they didn't see as a thing.
Yeah. And it doesn't mean you have that.
Nope. Doesn't mean you have it. Now, because the alcohol had metabolized and was eliminated from her system, Dr. Goldberger says that she got up the next morning and took the pills and said that all that bruising on her body, the state of her room, was all due to the medications inducing a seizure. Dr. Anderson said, quote, "We've done a lot of seizure deaths, and I don't ever remember one where they grabbed their neck enough to create blunt force trauma." He questioned why the toxicologist was commenting on medical injuries. John and Barbara were worried that they were running out of options because now you have 3 reports with 3 different causes of death. So they went to the governor, Jeb Bush, and asked for a completely outside person to review everything.
They're going to run out of doctors at this rate.
Yeah.
Maybe old Jeb. Maybe old Jeb will get them going.
So enter Chief Medical Examiner of Miami, Dr. Bruce Haima. He came in to review the review of the original autopsy.
To review the review of the original review.
Yes.
That was reviewed by the other reviewers.
Yep.
Gotcha.
That's exactly it. He put the time of death at midday or later, so some 9 hours or so after Tim left her, and says her trauma to the body was due to her being in that unnatural position for a long period of time. He ruled her death as a suicide, saying there was no evidence of a homicide. Now, Dr. Reyes and Dr. Anderson, remember, they're the OGs on this case. They refuse to change their mind because they say that those missing pictures of the neck wound are the real thing here. The fact that no one else has seen them means that they're not able to fully see the damage that was there. And once you take that out of the equation, that takes the homicide out of it. So it's not like these other reviews are necessarily wrong. They're just reporting on what is available to them. So the case was closed for a final time. That's it.
Wow.
No more.
So they started off strong.
Yeah, we were looking good.
And somebody shit the bed.
Yeah.
And lost the evidence.
Lost those pictures.
They had to go somewhere. I mean, they lost the evidence. They didn't take the rape kit. 10 weeks. I mean, yeah.
They didn't test the hairs that they found on her body.
Man.
And in her mouth.
I was kind of hopeful for this one.
I know. I'm sorry. I built it up to knock you back down.
Yep.
There was an issue on the blanket placement too. I feel kind of the need to mention this. The paramedics said they covered her body with the blanket, but the RA Carlos remembers moving it to check for a pulse. So maybe it was partially covering her to begin with, maybe. I don't know. Because he also said he could see that her skirt was up and her underwear was bunched. So he wouldn't have been able to see that if she was covered up by that comforter.
Well, and that's what I don't get. It's like, how do you claim it as a suicide when all this other stuff was happening?
Yeah.
You know, her skirt was up, her panties were in a bunch.
Well, they say it was the seizure.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. So she just started grabbing at every fucking thing.
I guess so.
You know, I mean, I know there's all different types of seizures.
Oh, yeah.
And everything, but we've seen one. It's kind of scary.
Scary stuff.
It's scary stuff.
It is.
You know.
It is.
But it wasn't nothing.
It was more of a neurological seizure, I would call it, because there was not a lot of jerky movements like you see on TV or if somebody has like a physical seizure. But it does get violent. Like they thrash around sometimes depending on what they're having. But I don't see that this could be done.
I mean, this right here, she'd have to been freaking up and about and freaking see, you know, with the seizure, she'd been jerking around her clothes. The way her clothes were moved, it wasn't like a lay down type seizure. I don't know.
And maybe another thing to consider, Tim said that he basically had to carry her back. So if she's wearing a skirt and underwear and he's trying to hoist her up, we can't take that out as a possibility.
You know, and he also did go to the bathroom and then return. So, you know, maybe he was done.
Oh, stop it. But when I was reviewing this case, it was giving me some slight Brandon Emery vibes. Remember, he's the one who beat himself to death. And they said that his damage was caused by a seizure. And that would have had to have been a very violent seizure. So this was kind of giving me those vibes when I was looking into it. So if you haven't heard that case, go back and we did a 2-parter on it.
Yeah.
But if you have any information that could help in Jennifer's case, please call the Central Florida Crime Line at 1-800-423-8477.
All right. Well, that's it for this one. Don't forget to tell your friends, tell everybody you know. We need subscribers. We need people on our podcast.
Yes.
Till next time, guys.
Bye.